Accused of sexual harassment and assault by Rodney Lil Rod Jones.
Ron, any comments? Any comments on the trial so far? The opening statements?
He's having his day.
He's having his day?
He's having his day. We trust the justice system.
Thank you, sir.
God is good.
The new allegations against Sean Diddy Combs, a music producer, is accusing hip-hop mogul of sexually assaulting him and forcing him to have sex with prostitutes.
For decades, Diddy was untouchable, the king of hip-hop with a billion-dollar empire. Everyone wanted to be in his circle, at his parties, in his presence. But in one explosive courtroom moment, his former producer Lil Rod shattered that image forever. The tearful testimony has the entire music industry in shock as disturbing details emerge about what allegedly happened behind closed doors.
Among the allegations is that Combs forced Jones to procure sex workers and pressure him to engage in unwelcome sex acts with them and others, and that Combs gave laced alcoholic beverages to people who attended parties at his home. The lawsuit includes what it says are screenshots from gatherings hosted at Combs' homes that included underage girls and sex workers, some of who he said were provided drinks that had been laced with drugs at Combs' direction.
I'm looking down at the 73-page complaint that was filed yesterday. In terms of allegations of celebrities, we're talking about Cuba Gooding Jr. being shown through still photos of what the complainant says they have videos of groping him. There are allegations of P. Diddy touching the genitalia and anus of the complainant. And also, if you look to the complaint here, there's a few Easter eggs here where it says the rapper, redacted, on Mr. Combs' yacht consorting with underage girls and sex workers, and you look down to the redaction, it says, well, the person is a Philly rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. I think that may be Meek Mills. And also says an R&B singer redacted in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home consorting with underage girls and sex workers. When you go down to the redaction, it says he's a Grammy Award-winning R&B singer who had trouble with law enforcement after assaulting a Bayesian billionaire. I don't know, who's a billionaire from Barbados that we know that dated someone? That sounds like Chris Brown. So there's a lot of big names here, both as Easter eggs and also just on the front pages of these allegations.
Remember when Diddy had it all? The mansions, the private jets, the exclusive parties where only the biggest stars got invites. He wasn't just a music mogul. He was the definition of success that everyone in the industry wanted to copy. Sean Combs started at the bottom, working as an intern at Uptown Records before climbing his way to the top. From Puff Daddy to P. Diddy to just Diddy, his name changes tracked his rise to power. His Bad Boy Records label launched careers like Biggie Smalls and created hits that defined an era. But music was just the beginning of his empire. The Sean John clothing line wasn't just another celebrity brand. It won fashion awards and pulled in millions. Then came Ciroc Vodka, turning a struggling brand into a nightclub staple through the power of Diddy's image. Suddenly, he wasn't worth millions. He was worth close to $1 billion. His annual white parties became legendary. Every A-lister fought for an invitation. Actors, musicians, athletes, even politicians showed up dressed in all white at his Hampton estate. The photos from these events showed beautiful people laughing, dancing, and celebrating Diddy's world. But those cameras eventually turned off. The public only saw what he wanted them to see. His business kept growing into media with Revolt TV, more alcohol brands like De Leon Tequila, and investments in tech companies. Every move seemed calculated to build this image of the untouchable king of hip-hop culture. The public ate it up. Black entrepreneurs pointed to him as the model of success. Business schools studied his marketing strategies. The parties grew more lavish each year. Private islands, yachts, hotel takeovers. The guest lists became more exclusive while the celebrations became more extreme. Money flowed like the alcohol he promoted, seemingly endless and available to anyone in his circle. His power within the industry seemed absolute. But behind the glitz, industry people whispered. Strange stories circulated about what happened at after-parties. Odd requirements for those who wanted to work with him. Unusual demands made of producers and artists. Everyone heard the rumors, but nobody said anything publicly. Who would risk their career by crossing someone with that much power? What was really happening at those gatherings when the official photographers left, when the carefully selected social media posts were done, when the doors closed and only Diddy's inner circle remained? The public image showed luxury and success, but something much darker allegedly lurked just out of view. According to new allegations, these parties weren't just celebrations, they were traps. Court documents now suggest Diddy used these events to identify potential victims. The alcohol, the drugs, the exclusive access to power. all allegedly tools to manipulate people into situations where they could be assaulted or exploited. The glittering events allegedly masked a system designed to protect predatory behavior through intimidation, blackmail, and fear. All of this might have stayed hidden forever behind NDAs and settlement agreements. The empire might have continued expanding without anyone questioning what happened behind those mansion doors. But then someone from Diddy's inner circle decided to speak up. A producer named Lil Rod started talking. And suddenly, the cracks in the billion-dollar empire began to show.
The biggest privilege he has is a cellmate.
Do we know who this cellmate is?
Yes. The cellmate is a man named Sam Bankman-Fried. He's in federal prison for stealing billions of dollars via his cryptocurrency company called FTX. While they bunk together, they are both separated from Gen Pop.
But then there was another juror that came on the stand, or potential juror, and this juror disclosed the information that they actually work at MDC Brooklyn. Now, the issue with that is Diddy is currently locked up at MDC Brooklyn. He's been housed there since September.
So he could have got paid off. He could have got promised something, anything.
He could have insider conversations.
Exactly. So the issue with that, the obvious issue with that is what you guys just said. But the bigger problem that the judge had, and he took a minute to scold both sides, the prosecutors and Diddy's team, because he's like, y'all got to do better.
How did he get this far?
Yeah, how did he get to the point where he's coming in front of the court and this is being put on record?
Honestly, they are making him suffer.
Poor guy's gonna have to shower by himself.
In terms of clothing, he's allowed one tracksuit and one pair of sneakers. So I'm assuming he switches off between his jail suit and his own personal tracksuit.
Okay, I mean, I get it.
He's not allowed any access to TV or radio, but he is allowed to have a copy of the Bible and one book per week.
Oh, okay. This might be good for him.
Yeah, he needs the Bible. He has access to 300 minutes of phone time per week. That translates to an equivalent of 5 hours per week. I feel like that's a lot of phone time.
Wait, that's a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of kids, so maybe they factored that in so he could have adequate time speaking to each child. But he's allowed one visitor each day at a specific time, and visits can only last 1 hour. But there's a specific dress code for visitors. No sunglasses or open-toed shoes, no ripped jeans. Also, if a visitor goes to the bathroom in the middle of their meeting, the visit's over. It's done.
They can't leave after that.
Yeah. So no funny business going on.
Yikes. Use the potty before you meet P. Diddy.
No pun intended. Children under the age of 4 must remain on a visitor's lap at all times.
February 26, 2024, a date the music industry won't forget. That's when Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr. filed a lawsuit that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Not a brief complaint with vague claims, but a massive 73-page document filled with allegations so specific and disturbing that even industry veterans were left speechless. But who exactly is Lil Rod? Before his name became attached to this bombshell lawsuit, he worked as a producer on Diddy's latest album, The Love Album, Off the Grid. This wasn't some random employee making wild accusations. Lil Rod spent over a year in Diddy's inner circle, traveling with him, staying at his homes, and witnessing what happened when the public wasn't watching. The lawsuit doesn't just make general claims about inappropriate behavior. It lists exact dates, locations, and descriptions of incidents that allegedly took place between 2022 and 2023. Lil Rod's legal team didn't file some hastily written complaint. They submitted a meticulously documented account that reads like a horrifying diary of his time with the music mogul. According to court papers, Lil Rod lived in Diddy's homes in Florida, Los Angeles, and New York while working on the album. He wasn't just stopping by for sessions. He was embedded in Diddy's world, witnessing daily activities most people never see. This proximity gave him a front-row seat to what allegedly happened behind those mansion doors. The most shocking claims? Lil Rod alleges Diddy sexually assaulted him multiple times and forced him into disturbing activities. The lawsuit states Diddy made him solicit male sex workers and record sexual encounters, videos that could now become evidence. Lil Rod claims he was ordered to handle drugs for parties and witnessed Diddy drugging guests without their knowledge. Legal experts examining the filing were taken aback by the level of detail. One entertainment attorney who reviewed the lawsuit said, "The specificity suggests someone who knew they might need proof someday and was keeping records." The document doesn't just make claims, it builds a comprehensive narrative supported by specific instances that could potentially be verified. The industry's reaction split almost immediately. Some music executives quietly started putting distance between themselves and Diddy. Others questioned Lil Rod's motives, suggesting the $30 million lawsuit might be a money grab. But the sheer volume of details made it impossible to dismiss outright. What makes the allegations particularly disturbing is the pattern of behavior Lil Rod describes. According to the lawsuit, Diddy didn't just commit isolated incidents, he allegedly ran a sophisticated operation. The document claims he used a combination of career opportunities, drugs, alcohol, and intimidation to create situations where people became vulnerable to assault. Lil Rod alleges Diddy would promise professional advancement, get people intoxicated, and then take advantage of them when they couldn't consent or resist. The lawsuit paints a picture of a man who allegedly used his power not just for isolated incidents, but as part of a calculated system of abuse. It suggests Diddy created an environment where victims felt unable to speak up because of his industry power and connections to people in high places. But as shocking as the written allegations were, they didn't capture the full impact of what was happening. That came later, when Lil Rod stood in court and the emotions behind those typed pages became painfully real for everyone watching.
Behind closed doors, but as those whispers start to grow and get louder, you potentially could see greater civil litigation. They're saying in this case they want to fight it. Potentially we see a jury trial out of here, but this is based on sex trafficking allegations as well as claims that are criminal in nature.
As in the lawsuit that he lived and traveled with Combs from September 2022 to November 2023, during which time he recorded hours of video and audio of Combs' staff and others engaged in serious illegal activity.
Reads a lot like what we saw in the R. Kelly case in the EDNY, where they're talking about this being a criminal enterprise that's all feeding towards this one individual's depravity of wanting drugs and sex and rock and roll and everything in between, that everyone seemed to know and go out and facilitate what Sean Diddy Combs wanted. Even in part of these allegations or these complaints, they call his chief of staff the Ghislaine Maxwell to P. Diddy's Jeffrey Epstein, saying that this was a total sexual enterprise to feed into his desires.
To raise $50,000
right
to sue Puffy
right
for payment for music he produced.
Right.
That I guess he didn't have a contract for to get paid.
They say he's credited on the album, but I think he's not getting like royalties from it. I think he just like played the guitar and did some engineering work on it, but he feels like he should got royalties and he didn't. He just had his name on the album, so he was trying to raise the money so he could sue Puff for his royalties. That didn't go nowhere, and then he comes out with this, well, all this stuff happened during the recording process of this album.
The courtroom was packed that morning. Reporters filled every available seat, celebrities sat in the back trying to avoid attention, and security stood at every door. All eyes focused on one person, Lil Rod, the man who worked side by side with Diddy for over a year, now ready to tell his story under oath. When Lil Rod first walked to the witness stand, he looked confident. Dressed in a dark blue suit, he made eye contact with his attorneys and seemed prepared for what was coming. That composure didn't last long. 20 minutes into his testimony, everything changed. He asked me to come to the studio late that night, Lil Rod said, his voice steady at first. He said we needed to finish the track, but when I got there, that's when the first crack appeared. His voice caught. He looked down at his hands. The judge leaned forward, watching closely as Lil Rod took a deep breath. People in the courtroom described how quickly his testimony shifted from professional to deeply personal. As he began describing what allegedly happened during late-night recording sessions, his hands started shaking. By the time he detailed the first alleged assault, tears were streaming down his face. "I didn't know what to do," he said, his voice barely audible. "He's Diddy. Who would believe me? Who would ever take my side against him?" Court reporters noted how the room fell completely silent during these moments, with even veteran journalists looking visibly uncomfortable. The most striking part came when Lil Rod described a night at Diddy's Los Angeles home. What was supposed to be a meeting about production credits allegedly turned into something much darker. "He handed me a drink, just one drink," Lil Rod testified, wiping tears. "I woke up the next morning with no memory of what happened. My clothes weren't right. I just knew something had happened." Across the courtroom, Diddy's expression changed dramatically during this testimony. Witnesses described how the music mogul, usually so controlled in public, couldn't maintain his poker face. When Lil Rod mentioned specific details about Diddy's private habits and behaviors, things only someone who had been in his inner circle would know, courtroom observers noticed Diddy whispering urgently to his attorneys. The judge had to call for a recess 3 separate times as Lil Rod broke down while describing what he allegedly endured. During one particularly difficult moment, Lil Rod couldn't continue speaking at all. He just sat there, shoulders shaking, unable to look up for nearly 2 minutes as the courtroom waited in uncomfortable silence. The breaking point came when Lil Rod described the fear he lived with every day. "I thought he would destroy me," he said through tears. "I thought I'd never work again. I thought I might not even survive this." At that moment, he covered his face with his hands and sobbed openly, unable to continue. The judge immediately called another recess. When court resumed 30 minutes later, Lil Rod dropped the bombshell that changed everything. "I was scared for my life, so I protected myself the only way I knew how," he said, his voice steadier now, almost resigned. "I started recording everything. Every meeting, every party, every conversation when he thought nobody was watching." The courtroom erupted in whispers as Diddy's legal team frantically passed notes back and forth. Those recordings, if they existed, weren't just Lil Rod's word against Diddy's anymore. They could be the concrete evidence that brought down an empire.
But they said they are all lies. This is a clear example of a desperate person taking desperate measures in hopes of a payday. There will be legal consequence for all defamatory statements made about the Combs family. The attorney for Combs said Jones' reckless name dropping about events that are pure fiction and simply did not happen is nothing more than a transparent attempt to garner headlines.
The disclaimer is he said that Puff didn't pay him for his beat and his publishing from that last album.
Yeah.
And prior to this, he had a GoFundMe trying to raise $50,000 to get a lawyer to sue Puff for his publishing.
Okay.
That didn't work, so he filed this.
Yeah, Stephanie, I think the defense is going to look for people who are open to non-traditional lifestyles, who can receive evidence of what defense will sort of style as sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and not get put off and not rush to judgment. On the flip side, the prosecution is going to be looking for folks who are not going to be distracted by, the new shiny object over here, who are not going to get off course by any kind of circus the Diddy team may try to bring into this trial.
So, I mean, this has garnered much media attention. How does that factor in when it comes to selecting a jury? Because no doubt most people have heard of what is going on.
Totally. So it presents a significant problem. Here's the thing. The judge wants to find jurors who are fair and impartial and who have not already developed an opinion as to Diddy's guilt or innocence. Well, that's hard when every media outlet in the world has covered this case. They've likely already heard about it. And so what the judge is going to have to do is determine how much exposure the potential jurors have had to this Diddy saga and whether they can put that aside and simply base their verdict on what happens inside that courtroom and not everything that has gone on preceding that.
"I recorded everything." 4 words that stopped the courtroom cold and sent Diddy's legal team into a visible panic. Those simple words might be the key to this entire case against one of music's most powerful figures. According to court documents, Lil Rod claims he has more than just his word to back up his allegations. He says he collected hours of video and audio recordings during his time working with Diddy. These aren't just random clips. They allegedly document months of behavior that could destroy Diddy's career and freedom if proven true. The recordings supposedly show far more than just Diddy acting badly. Lil Rod claims they capture other major celebrities participating in what he called freak-offs, a term that sounds innocent enough until you hear the details. These weren't just wild parties. According to Lil Rod's testimony, these were drug-fueled gatherings where people were allegedly assaulted while impaired or unconscious. Lil Rod didn't start recording because he planned to sue. His lawsuit states he began documenting these events as a form of self-protection. "I realized what was happening around me, and I needed proof," he testified. "I was scared nobody would believe me without evidence." And this fear makes sense when you consider the power imbalance between an up-and-coming producer and one of music's biggest moguls. Legal experts watching the case say these recordings could be the smoking gun if they're authentic. Audio and video evidence is incredibly powerful in court. one entertainment attorney explained. If these recordings show Diddy providing drugs to people or engaging in non-consensual acts, that's not just career-ending, that's criminal. The most damaging aspect of these alleged recordings isn't just what they show Diddy doing. Lil Rod claims they reveal how the music mogul used his position to manipulate people. The recordings allegedly show a pattern of Diddy using a combination of career opportunities, drugs, alcohol, and intimidation to create situations where people became vulnerable. Some of the recordings reportedly show Diddy's homes equipped with hidden cameras. Others allegedly capture him explicitly discussing how to keep people quiet through what Lil Rod described as blackmail material. If true, these recordings wouldn't just document individual incidents, they'd expose an entire system. Several clips have already been submitted to the court under seal. The judge issued strict orders preventing their public release, which has only fueled speculation about what they contain. Courtroom sources say Diddy's attorneys fought aggressively to keep these recordings from being admitted into evidence at all, a move that raised eyebrows among legal observers. What exactly do these recordings show that has Diddy's team so worried? According to people familiar with the case, they allegedly capture Diddy offering drugs to people without their knowledge, making explicit threats about career consequences for those who refuse his advances, and discussing his connections to powerful people who would make problems disappear. Most shocking of all, Lil Rod claims some recordings show Diddy explicitly discussing how to target specific people at industry events, conversations that would transform random bad behavior into calculated predatory actions. As word about these alleged recordings spread through Hollywood, the reaction was immediate and dramatic. Former friends and business partners started distancing themselves from Diddy faster than anyone could have predicted. The question wasn't just what these recordings showed, but who else might be caught on them.
I think that could lead to what the attorneys are saying, is that anybody right now can come out with these accusations because, of what happened with Cassie. So everybody's trying to get a payday, off of this whole thing. So, I did Lil Rod go to him and be like, hey, if you don't, pay me, then, I'm going to tell all of this other stuff that has been happening since, I was involved with this album. Like I have screenshots, bro. I have audio and video tape of these things that are happening. All you have to do is pay me. So what's the word? And he was like, nah. So it was like, all right.
The music industry turned on Diddy faster than a broken record. Within days of Lil Rod's emotional testimony, celebrities who once fought to be in his Instagram photos suddenly couldn't remember his name. The same stars who used to brag about partying at his mansion now pretend they barely know him. Jay-Z canceled a planned business venture with Diddy just hours after the court session ended. His team claimed it was scheduling conflicts, but industry insiders know better. Justin Bieber, who used to call Diddy his mentor, removed every social media post featuring the music mogul. Even longtime friend Ashton Kutcher, who appeared at countless white parties, told reporters he was processing the allegations when asked about his relationship with Diddy. But it's not just friendships disappearing, the money is drying up too. 3 major brands that once fought to work with Diddy are now reviewing their contracts. Target pulled Sean John clothing from their shelves without any public announcement. They didn't issue a statement. The products just vanished overnight. Ciroc Vodka, once proudly advertised with Diddy's face on billboards, suddenly features models instead of its famous partner in new ads. The social media cleanse has been just as dramatic. Celebrities are frantically deleting old posts praising Diddy. One A-list actress removed 14 Instagram photos with him in a single day. A famous rapper's social team worked through the night scrubbing his Twitter of any Diddy mentions. Their publicists all have the same message. My client is not commenting on ongoing legal matters. Behind closed doors, the panic is real. A music executive who asked to remain anonymous revealed that private group chats among industry leaders are absolute chaos right now. Everyone's asking the same thing. Who's on those recordings? Who's going to be named next? The fear isn't just about being associated with Diddy. It's about potentially being caught on tape at one of his infamous parties. Projects worth millions are now frozen in limbo. A documentary series about Diddy's rise to success that was set to start filming next month has been indefinitely postponed. A major label put a collaborative album featuring Diddy on hold pending resolution of current matters. Nobody wants their brand anywhere near this scandal until they know how far it reaches. Former employees smell blood in the water. 3 ex-staff members have contacted Lil Rod's attorney since the testimony. A former assistant is reportedly shopping a tell-all book to publishers. A security guard who worked at Diddy's LA home for years is rumored to have kept a detailed journal of who came and went during late-night gatherings. The biggest names in entertainment are sweating. Leonardo DiCaprio, who attended multiple white parties, has gone completely silent. Drake canceled a public appearance the day after Lil Rod mentioned his name in court. Mark Wahlberg, once photographed partying on Diddy's yacht, suddenly doesn't recall spending much time with him. But perhaps most telling is Justin Timberlake's reaction. The singer, who collaborated with Diddy multiple times, was asked about the allegations at a recent event. He stared blankly at the reporter, turned around, and walked away without saying a word. His publicist later claimed he didn't hear the question. The friends are gone. The business deals are evaporating. And the empire Diddy spent decades building now sits on the edge of complete collapse, with each new court revelation threatening to push it into the abyss. The term freak often sounds like some kind of party game, but what Lil Rod described in court documents is far more disturbing. According to his testimony, these weren't random gatherings that got out of hand. They were allegedly calculated events designed with a specific purpose to create situations where people could be taken advantage of. Court records show Diddy allegedly planned these events down to the smallest detail. Staff would receive instructions days before to prepare specific rooms in his homes. Security would be positioned strategically, not just to keep people out, but to keep people in. Guest lists were carefully curated to include both targets and enablers. He didn't leave anything to chance, Lil Rod testified. These weren't just parties that turned wild. They were traps set for specific people. The lawsuit claims Diddy would identify potential victims in advance, often young artists or models hoping for career opportunities, and position them in vulnerable situations. The most disturbing part? The alleged drugging. Lil Rod claims Diddy kept what he called special cups for certain guests. According to court documents, these drinks contain mixtures of MDMA, GHB, and other substances that would leave people conscious but compliant, or sometimes unconscious entirely. Lil Rod alleges his role at these events became increasingly disturbing over time. What started as being asked to manage music and lighting eventually turned into orders to film what happened. He told me it was for his personal collection, Lil Rod stated in court. But sometimes he would watch the videos later with other people laughing. The level of detail in the lawsuit is what makes these allegations so credible to legal experts. Lil Rod listed 12 specific freak-off events between September 2022 and January 2023, including addresses, dates, and names of others allegedly present. One event at Diddy's Miami home reportedly lasted 3 days, with people coming and going while others remained in bedroom suites unable to leave. Former staff members have started corroborating elements of these claims. An ex-security guard reported regular deliveries of black duffel bags before these gatherings, bags that would arrive through service entrances and be taken directly to Diddy's private rooms. A former chef described preparing specific food menus designed to be consumed with drugs. What makes these allegations particularly chilling are the power dynamics. Lil Rod claims Diddy explicitly discussed how to use career opportunities as bait. He would talk about how this person needed a feature on their track or that person wanted a modeling contract, Lil Rod testified. Then he'd say we should invite them Friday and see if they're serious about their career. The lawsuit describes one particularly disturbing incident where a young female artist was allegedly told she needed to prove her loyalty to get her song produced. Security camera footage from that night, which Lil Rod claims to have copied, allegedly shows the woman being led to a bedroom barely able to walk. These allegations aren't just about inappropriate behavior at wild parties. They describe what prosecutors could potentially view as organized criminal activity, a system designed to identify, isolate, and assault victims while creating an environment where they couldn't consent, wouldn't be believed, or were too afraid to speak up. If these allegations are proven true, legal experts believe Diddy could face not just civil penalties, but serious criminal charges. The detailed nature of Lil Rod's claims, combined with the alleged video evidence, has prosecutors from multiple jurisdictions reportedly reviewing the case with growing interest. Diddy built his billion-dollar empire over decades, but it might crumble in months. His mansions, businesses, and famous friendships now hang by a thread as Lil Rod's allegations gain credibility with each court appearance. The music industry is watching in horror as one of its biggest names faces serious accusations backed by what could be damning evidence. Every day brings new details, new witnesses, and new rumors about who might be implicated next. What's happening to Diddy sends a clear message throughout Hollywood. No amount of money or power can silence victims forever. The walls of protection around powerful abusers are finally starting to break.